Hi everyone, this is Liz, and today we are going to talk about the 5 forms of communication. Now before we dive into that, I think we ought to ask ourselves, what exactly is communication? This will help us understand where the 5 forms of communication derived from. So communication studies didn't actually come into the universities until the early 1900s. So the definition of communication has been defined in many different ways for the past 100 years. According to our textbook's definition, communication is defined by the process of generating meaning by sending and receiving cues and signs that are influenced by multiple contexts. So with that being said, communication has been organized by these 5 forms, and I'll go through each of them with examples. The first one is intrapersonal communication, which is communication with oneself and occurs only inside our heads. Now this form is different from all the other forms because no one is receiving a message from you. Instead, you're sending messages to yourself. So have you ever had a thought about a funny memory and all of a sudden you laughed out loud and maybe someone looked at you weird? There's no need to be embarrassed because there's actually a word for that, and that's intrapersonal communication. Internally speaking to yourself can also benefit and build confidence before going on a date or before going into an interview for your future career. The second form is interpersonal communication, which is communication between people whose lives mutually influence one another and typically occurs in pairs. So this can usually be between you and your best friend, your spouse, your brother or sister. So say that your best friend calls you up to meet at the mall and get a smoothie, go window shopping, and you both agree to wear the same colored t-shirts. This is being voluntary with your time with another person, which is an example of intrapersonal communication. The third form is group communication, which occurs when 3 or more people communicate to achieve a shared goal. Group communication is more intentional and gives a group a formal purpose, whether it's at work or at a volunteer event or at school. So say you and some other students decide to plan a study group to have the goal to pass an exam and decide to make tasks for each other. Maybe one student from the group will plan where and when to meet. The other student will create flashcards and go over them during the study session, and the other student will get coffee for the group. The fourth form is public communication, which is a sender focus and typically occurs when one person conveys information to an audience. So an example of this would be a teacher giving a lecture to the students in class, a pastor preaching a sermon to the church members and visitors, or maybe even a singer singing at a concert, sending a message of hope to their fans. The fifth form, and my personal favorite form, is mass communication, which occurs when messages are sent to large audiences using print or electronic media. These include your local newspaper, the news channel, emails, blogs, and even podcast subscriptions. Technology is continuously innovating, and even though the sender can't receive a quick face-to-face response, you can also use social media or a letter to respond to a message that you may have found intriguing or concerning. Mass communication is a powerful tool that we use today to engage with a broad audience, which makes everything more exciting and open to creating ideas. These are the 5 forms of communication that I hope refreshed your mind. Each of these forms are a great way to understand your purpose and audience and how to perceive our situations better for our everyday lives. Thank you.